Blog Talk Radio.
Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Red Light Sports Rambo, presented by the Red Light Sports Network. I am Troy Otradovic, out in rainy Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, joined by the ecstatic Evan Witallison, out in the great state of Wisconsin. And Evan, today we have a very special guest, returning guest, who has made the most guest appearances on the show, and that's Kevin Cunningham, who is the sports editor at the Royal Purple. Kevin, welcome back to the show, bud.
Thanks for having me. Pleasure as always.
And what we're going to talk about
It's great to have you on. He's talking about Marquette today, right, Troy?
yeah. We're gonna talk about we're gonna talk about the move that Marquette made to Division III to go to the Final Four. It's an inside joke, Kevin. I didn't get to tell you. I totally forgot. Actually, we were wrapping up yesterday's show, and I said we're gonna have Kevin Cunningham on. We're gonna talk basketball. And Evan added, we're going to talk about Marquette going to the Final Four. And I didn't correct him on the air.
I'm the one that said Kevin was coming on, and I did say Marquette was going to be on. Talking about Marquette, so.
Yeah, I'm just wondering when they made that move. You know, that would be quite a matchup. I don't know the way
That'd be earth-shattering news.
Well, the way the Whitewater men are playing, that might be a good game. They might be able to take down Marquette. They're playing some really good basketball. Playing some really good ball right now, and that's why we have Kevin on the show today. Both the men and the women have actually advanced to the Final Four this weekend, and they're going to Salem, Virginia, to be able to hopefully come back with 2 titles. That would be so awesome to see both the men.
The women are in Stevens Point.
Yeah, the women are in Stevens Point. Men are in Salem.
The women are up in Stevens Point.
But it would be nice to come back with 2 championships, men and women. Add it to a football championship. I got to love UW-Whitewater. Just got to love it. So, Kevin, take us through the men. How did they get to where they're at right now, and give us a little preview of what they're going to be coming up against this weekend?
Will do. A couple things, though. First, the men are playing well, but as far as Marquette goes, they had a little down year, but I still would probably take Marquette's men's team over ours, unfortunately. But also, our men's and women's wheelchair teams actually both won national titles as well.
Awesome.
Just want to give a quick shout out to them. So, realistically, we could sweep men's and women's wheelchair and men's and women's regular basketball as well, which I would assume, I haven't looked into it, but I would assume it would be the first time ever. But, yeah. Anyway, going into the men. First round, played Northwestern St. Paul, won by 24. Then we played Augustana, won by 19. Texas Dallas last weekend, up in Stevens Point, we won by 18. And then Emory, a team that received a first-round bye. There were one of 2 teams in the field of 66 on the men's side that got a bye. No one was quite sure how they got that over Stevens Point, because Stevens Point was the number 1 ranked team heading in. But they got the bye. They ended up playing Stevens Point at Stevens Point, and in overtime, they upset them by 3. So we got to play Emory in the Elite Eight, and we beat them by 23 points. So here we are in the Final Four. Expected to play Stevens Point in the Elite Eight. Didn't happen, and obviously we took advantage of that.
Well, you and I were talking while Evan was taking care of some work business. This men's team, I mean, they haven't been in a close game. And so as we look forward to the Final Four, is that to their advantage that they're playing so well and basically destroying teams? Or is that going to be a disadvantage if this game is close when they're playing Illinois Wesleyan? What is your thought on that, Kevin? I mean, they've been steamrolling people.
Yeah, I get the whole argument where, hey, they haven't been tested really yet. Will they be able to respond? This game against Illinois Wesleyan should be a tighter game for sure. I'd be surprised if we won by 18. But that being said, before this little 4-game run we've had, we went up to Stevens Point and lost by, I forgot what it was. It was close to 20 points. So the team is well aware that it can be stopped. It's not like they're on, some 20-game winning streak where they think they're unbeatable. And Pat Miller, I've gotten a chance to see all 4 of their games since they've been in the state of Wisconsin. The women's team's been out of state. So I've stayed in state, covered the men for the most part. But Pat Miller's general sense is that, hey, we're playing as good as we can right now. And that's a good thing, despite, basically saying, oh, darn, we're facing Emory in the Elite Eight. It's not as though Emory is a bad team. They made it to the Elite Eight for a reason. They're playing quality opponents still. It's not like they're playing, slouches. But the Whitewater's playing their best basketball they have all year, as the last 4 games have shown, where their closest game has been, an 18-point win.
Yeah, it looks like Whitewater is going to be going into a matchup that they probably haven't quite had quite a bit this year, or most of this year. And, Illinois Wesleyan's got a few guys on their team that are 6'8". They got a couple guys that are 6'10". Looks like they got some length in the middle, and they typically out-rebound their opponents by a pretty big factor. And they also score close to 80 points, or over 80 points a game. How concerning is that for you with Whitewater's defense and their ability to match up with Illinois Wesleyan size?
Yeah, I think of the 4 teams, I think Illinois Wesleyan is, I wouldn't say the best team of the 4, but I would say that if Illinois Wesleyan does defeat us, I like their chances in the championship game. I think they're the deepest team out of the 4 remaining between us, Illinois Wesleyan, Amherst, and Williams on the other side. They're the deepest. They're probably the biggest on the interior. Like you said, their rebounding margins are up there. And it can be concerning for us because we tend to go with basically a 4-guard lineup where KJ Evans leads the team in rebounds, but he's only 6'4", at over 8 boards a game. So he rebounds the ball effectively, obviously. But being 6'4", if he does have to go against a guy that's 6'8", obviously that'll, probably not bode well for us on the glass. On the other hand, can their 6'8" guy keep up with KJ Evans? Will they have to downsize to match up with us, or will Whitewater have to send in more bigs than they want to try and mesh Illinois Wesleyan on the glass? I guess it'll all come down to which team has to play the game that they don't want to, and the way I haven't seen any of Illinois Wesleyan's games to this point, other than their first round game where they won by 1. They've kind of coasted into the Final Four. But yeah, I think whichever team makes the other do something they don't want to do, I think that'll be the team that ends up on top.
Well, let's go down the road where Wesleyan starts dominating inside. The one thing with our roster, Kevin, is our tallest guy is 6'6". What do you see a lineup being if we have to go bigger? What do you see the 5 on the floor being?
I would say that we would take out one of our guards. Just because KJ Evans leads the team in points and rebounds, I'm assuming he would have to be out there. But one of the other guards would probably have to be switched out for a guy like Steve Egan, who's taller, has played a number of minutes throughout the year. He's been a guy off the bench a big off the bench that plays quite a bit. He's probably the next guy in line to be in the middle with Reggie Hearn and try and contain or keep Illinois Wesleyan off the glass. Reggie Hearn's he's not the tallest guy out there, but he is a bigger guy that tends to be able to bully his way in the paint. So I don't think there'll be a problem there. But I guess if we are getting out rebounded by a lot, someone like Steve Egan will probably have to come in and end up help maintaining the glass.
Now, it looked like early on against your last opponent, it looked like you were struggling with the three-point shot. And with the team as large as Illinois Wesleyan, how important is it to come out early and being able to make those threes?
Yeah, I think it'll be big. In the first half against Emory, I want to say Whitewater had, I think they were down by 1, actually, if I remember right. They were either up 1, down 1. But, yeah, the offense kind of slow to start. Then in the second 20 minutes, we kind of figured out the zone. The shooters were hitting their threes. A guy to definitely watch is Cody Odegaard. Comes off the bench. He's been, he's had a good tournament to this point, shooting the ball from three against Dallas and I think it was 5 for 7 from three. He's had a great tournament. He was a little slower against Emory, but then again in the second half, all the guys picked it up. So, he didn't have to drain 5 threes. But if our shooters on the outside can knock down their shots over the length, that'll obviously bode well for us. In Odegaard, Bryson, Merg, got a number of shooters that can definitely drain it. It's just a matter of will they over the length of Illinois Wesleyan.
Well, when we look at it, Kevin, I mean, the Warhawks can put points up. I mean, I'm looking at the snapshot when I looked at the game preview. Regular season, they averaged 78.8 points in the NCAA tournament, averaging 80 points. But I look at the defense, and when you look at the size, can you think, as you covered them throughout the year, somebody that was similar, where they had the more of a height advantage? And how did Whitewater attack them? Did they just stick with their game and say, hey, we're going to make our shots, we're going to put our 80 up, and we're just going to try to man up? Or did they change their scheme when they played against a team that had a little bit of height like Wesleyan? Is there anything in the season that they can go back to and say, hey, we played so-and-so and they had a bigger height advantage than us? Or is this going to be new territory for them?
I think that it's fairly new territory. I don't think they've played a team that's as interior dominated as Wesleyan. I think throughout the regular season they've been able to stick with their 5, pressure the guards on defense, because on the outside we have excellent perimeter defense. So if we can constrict their guards and just focus on doubling down in the post if they have to, that's what they've done throughout the regular season. They've been successful with that. So this is somewhat new territory, but I feel like if Illinois Wesleyan gets the ball in the post and we do double, they will have open shots. But will they make them? That's going to be the question. I don't think that they'll put up another 80 on us because our defense is so good on the perimeter. So I'm hesitant to say that this game will be in the 80s, but I do expect it to be a higher scoring game than average, since both teams do average, over 70 points a game.
Now, what has been the temperament of the team a little bit this week? Have they seemed to, have you seen any nerves with them, or do they seem pretty loose and ready to go? They seem pretty loose. I mean, throughout this tournament run, in the first round game against Northwestern St. Paul, they played that team 2 years ago and they dominated them. They didn't have any worries about that one. Not that they were overconfident, but they knew that if they played their game, they'd be successful. And that's kind of, it seems like that's been their MO throughout this tournament so far. They played Augustana. They know that if they play their game, they're basically better than anybody out there. Before Stevens Point had lost to Emory, the question was asked of, hey, do you care who you play in the Elite Eight tomorrow? And they basically said, nope, whoever wins between Emory and Stevens Point, bring it on. Doesn't make a difference. So they're ready for anyone. They're not backing down. At the same time, I don't think they're overconfident, like I said. I just think that they're playing the best basketball that they have all year, and they know that. And so they're up for basically any challenge there is.
Well, I would think part of them being ready for that challenge, Kevin, is the direction of the head coach, Pat Miller. And I wanted to talk about him a little bit because he's had a lot of success. When I pulled it up, I mean, his overall record, believe, the one where I have it right now on the snapshot, 262-79, about 77% of his games. 7th trip to the tournament with Coach Miller. And I think I asked you this question when we were talking Whitewater football. Another successful coach at the D3 level. What is the long term for Coach Miller? Is he a Warhawk, or is he going to have an opportunity to move along after this run? Because he has done great things for this basketball program under his head coaching reign. I mean, he's had a very good team. What does the future hold? Are we going to see Coach Miller for a while, or is he going to get a chance to move into the higher ranks soon, do you think?
I want to say like Leipold for football. I think that if an attractive D1 offer came up, that obviously they would consider it. It would be kind of stupid in my eyes not to consider a good D1 offer. At the same time, I think they do love being here. The football team has won 4 of the last 5 titles. I don't think, if it was only 3 of 5, does that make any difference if it's 4 or 5? As far as Pat Miller goes, basketball, he played here. He won a national title. So he I assume he wants to stay here for as long as possible. If, again, an attractive D1 offer comes about, will he look at it? I'm sure he'll look at it. Have I heard anything about him possibly moving on? No. This team won the national title 2 years ago under Pat Miller. So, will 2 and 3 years make any difference as opposed to 1 and 3? I don't know. But, you look at Bo Ryan, he coached at Platteville. Now he's obviously at Wisconsin. So if something comes up, will Pat Miller look at it? I'm sure he will. But for the near future, I think him and Leipold are here to stay unless something crazy comes up at the D1 level.
Yeah, I'm aging myself. Coach
best of luck to.
I was just going to say, Evan, Coach Miller played when I was a freshman at UW-Whitewater. When they won the national title in 88-89, that was my freshman year at Whitewater. And Coach Miller was on that team. So I didn't know him personally, but him and I attended at the same time. So another coach that played for UW-Whitewater, and I think that means a lot, and I think that's why we see a lot of stability in the coaching at UW-Whitewater. Because they've played there, they've had success, they're continuing the success, and they just love the atmosphere at UW-Whitewater. Sorry to interrupt you, Evan. Go ahead, bud.
No, that's fine. I was just going to, looking at the time, I was going to say best of luck to the men's team, and just, let's move over to the women's to get to the Final Four. They had to get the monkey off their back and get revenge over a team that beat them last year in the national championship game. Can you kind of walk us through the women's path to the Final Four?
Yeah. Before we get to the monkey off the back, they beat Concordia Moorhead by 7 in the first round, and then St. Thomas, Minnesota, that was the host school. Because the men were hosting, women couldn't host, so they had to travel to St. Thomas, and they defeated them in the second round. Then in the Sweet 16 last weekend, they had to travel to DePaul. That was the team that got the little host bid there out of that section of 4. We beat Oshkosh, a familiar WEAC foe, obviously, by 8. We beat them for the 3rd straight time this season. That was huge. And then we played DePaul, who, like you said, is kind of like getting the monkey off her back. Last year, DePaul shot, I want to say it was 62%, 61%, one of those in the title game last year. It seemed like they shot 80%. They were basically unstoppable in the championship game last year. This time around, Whitewater came out at DePaul's home court, a team that had lost 2 games on their home court in the last 8 seasons, and we made it 3 on this past Saturday. Heading into the weekend, you look and analyze, should we beat DePaul? It's hard to say that you're going to beat a team that beat you in the national title game last year, lost 1 game this year, and it's going to be on their home court. But we entered halftime with a slim lead, and we ended up winning by 17 points. So second half, the team scored 53 points. Last year's title game, they scored 51 in the entire game against them. So the women are rolling just like the men are.
Yeah, they definitely are. And I wanted to ask you this question. I thought I'd save it for when we got to the women. I go through the snapshot. I'm looking at the game snapshot. And the first thing it says, Kevin, it says record 26-4. WEAC finished first, 16-0. And then it says number of all WEAC honorees. And it says 6. Did the Whitewater women put 6 players on the all-conference teams? Or don't you know?
Honestly, I don't have that No, I'm not 100% sure. I know they got one player on the all-region team, which was kind of crazy to me because I think there's 3 separate teams in there. I want to say there's 15 different girls that are there, and Whitewater got 1, which, obviously 6 for the conference is crazy high.
It is. That's
1 for the whole region. That's crazy low.
Yeah, I thought that was low.
I'm not sure if we did get 6 on the conference. I apologize.
Oh, that's okay.
This team is extremely deep.
And when I looked at it and said, well, I wouldn't put it past it because this team is deep. This is a true team atmosphere,
Mm-hmm.
and I just didn't know if you knew off the top of your head. I didn't mean to throw a wrench at you, but I'll tell you what. When you look at this team, Kevin, I mean, it looks like anybody can step up, but it looks like in the NCAAs is that Murray is stepping up, averaging 20 points, 20.5. But anybody at any given time for this team seems like they can put the ball in the hoop. So that's pretty tough to stop. How do you defend if you were a coach against Whitewater? How do you defend the women? There's so many options that they have on this team.
Yeah, the emergence of Kristen Ruckty, who was, a volleyball player for us and then transferred over to basketball once the volleyball season was over, gave the women's team that was kind of lacking in size a 6'2" center who was very polished for not having played, collegiate basketball at Whitewater. She transferred from Parkside where she played basketball, but, she hasn't played in quite some time, obviously. But she's extremely polished in the post. If she gets double teamed, she'll kick it out to shooters. At the best, she's extremely good in the post, for lack thereof of a word. But yeah, with Mandrell and Ruckty inside, 6 foot and 6'2", both very, very good interior players. And then on the outside, you got Caitlin Thill, one of the top defensive point guards in the country. And then Merg, like you said, is just leading this team, senior leader. One of many seniors on this team, Phil, Merg, Mandrell, Ruckty, all seniors. And then at other guard spots, a guard, Abby Reeves, went down. She was a shooter with a shoulder injury against against Oshkosh. And then that's where Ruckty stepped in the starting lineup. And so you got 3 great guards, starting in Caitlin Thill, Mary Merg, Katie Burton, and then you got the 2 inside, Mandrell and Ruckty. So they are a complete team as far as how I would go against defending them. There's not one thing you can solely focus on because this team can shoot threes at will. Merg is great in isolation. She's great at finding shooters. On the interior, Mandrell and Ruckty are a load to deal with. Whitewater looks like as complete a team at the D3 women's level as can get at this point.
Like the men's team, the women are facing a team that's got a little bit of size inside, and they're led by one of the ladies inside. She's a 6'2" senior who's averaging about 16 points a game. Now, how does Whitewater stack up? I know you're saying post play. How does Whitewater stack up against this team size?
Yeah, it's weird how these two teams kind of mirror each other. Against DePaul, Coach Carollo knew that they had that advantage inside in Mandrell and Ruckty, and they constantly pounded Ruckty inside, especially, who ended up with 24 and 9 on the game. But yeah, against Whitman in this Final Four, they have, like you said, a 6'2" senior in the post who will match up with Ruckty, our 6'2" senior. They have a 6 foot forward who will match up with Mandrell, also a 6 foot forward on our side. And then the guards are a little smaller, but their leading scorer is a guard as well, who's, I want to say 5'8", which our number 3 is also 5'8", I want to say. So it's weird how these two teams mirror each other. Both on the perimeter, they're a little smaller, but on the interior, 6 foot and 6'2", matches up with our 6 foot and 6'2". So, there's really no advantage height-wise. But I think that our pressure defensively from full court and from a guard standpoint will likely be the difference in the game.
Now, going into the Final Four, would it be would it be safe to say that the Warhawks are the favorite of the 4 teams that are remaining? Are they the favorite to win the national championship? When I looked at the 4 teams, I know that there's some differences, but are they going in as the favorite?
I would say they're the favorite. I mean, we're 26-4 overall. Whitman, the team we're playing, is 30-1. You look at the other side, FU Florham, 31-0. Tufts is 30-1. To give a tiny bit of background on the other 2 teams, Florham scores 80 points a game. They're a top 10 offense. Tufts allows under 50 points a game. They're a top 10 defense. So no matter what happens in the championship game, if we get past Whitman, that'll be a battle either for our offense or our defense. But against Whitman, they just beat Thomas More, who was the number 1 ranked team heading in. They were undefeated. They actually had Sydney Moss, who's Randy Moss's daughter. She transferred from the University of Florida this past year. She made the All-SEC first-team freshman at Florida last year. And with 7 minutes left in the first half, on a breakaway, one of the Whitman players, I don't know what happened exactly because I wasn't watching, but Sydney Moss was on a breakaway, went down, and from that point on, Whitman kind of took over the game, and that's how they're here. But no, are we the easy favorite shoe-in to win the title? No, I mean, all 3 of these teams outside of Whitewater are all very good. None of them even have 2 losses on the year so far.
Now, hopefully, after Saturday, we're talking, as Troy said to start the show, 2 more national titles added to the Whitewater trophy case, and hopefully we get to read another wonderful article from you. I got to read the article that you had written on the Whitewater women's team going to the Final Four, which was a great article. So hopefully we have another Final Four to 2 more national championships for you to write about.
Yeah, thank you. I mean, as far like I said, the women, it should be a battle. For the men, I think the winner of our game in Wesleyan will beat out the winner of Amherst and Williams. Not to say that Amherst and Williams are bad teams. Obviously, Amherst won the title last year, but I do think that both teams have as good a shot as anybody. I don't think there are any slouches out of these 4 teams remaining on either side. So they all should honestly be really good games. I'm not just saying that to not boost our school's morale or anything, but I really do think that each of the games the rest of the way this forward for the men and women will be tight, and honestly, any of the 4 teams on either side could win it.
You know what, Kevin, we try to be unbiased on this show, but we can be biased today. I'm a Whitewater alum. We can be biased. We're gonna boost the morale all we can. Go Hawks! That is where I went to school. We're boosting morale today. Go Hawks! But just under 2 minutes to go, Kevin, and I want to throw out another Wisconsin game, or another Wisconsin team. It's actually Wisconsin Badgers starting NCAA Division I play. How far do you think they're going to advance in the tournament?
90 seconds.
My bracket is on that whole right side of the bracket for the West and Midwest. I'm definitely unsure. As far as Wisconsin goes, in the second round, if they play Oregon, I think it'll be a really good game because Oregon has as much offensive talent as a 7 seed can really have. So that'll be a really good game because Wisconsin's defense is not historically up to Bo Ryan's par. So that second round game should be interesting.
60 seconds.
In 16, I have Wisconsin losing to Creighton. If Creighton goes 3 of 16 from 3, they're losing to anyone in this field. On the other hand, they're the most efficient offense heading into the tournament for a reason. They shoot a lot of threes, but they obviously make a lot of them. And that's why they got a 3 seed. So if Creighton continues their effectiveness offensively, I think they will be too much for Wisconsin, simply because Wisconsin's defense is not up to par as it usually is in previous years.
Now, there was one other Wisconsin team in the NCAA tournament, Division I. Do you give Milwaukee a shot at all keeping that game close?
I think they can keep it close. I'm actually down on Nova.
10 seconds.
Probably most people are. But So I thought that once it came down to that selection show, the final region, I figured Villanova was probably one of the only teams UWM will be matched up against. I watched UWM against Wright State in the Horizon League championship game, and UWM looked great. And then the final 7 minutes, they don't get a field goal, and it's like, okay, this is why UWM went barely over 500 during the regular season in Horizon League play. So do I give UWM a chance? Yes. I think they drew favorably drawing Villanova, but I think 9 times out of 10, Villanova's probably going to win that game.
Yeah, got to go on your side there. I hope they keep it close. It'd be great to see the upset, but I'm not sure that they can quite pull that upset up. But with that said, Kevin, we appreciate you coming on the show. We're definitely going to have to get back together next week and invite you back again to kind of extend the number of appearances on the Red Light Ramble after the championship weekend, because there'll be a lot to talk about. Hopefully we're talking 2 championships for the University of Wisconsin-Whitewater. But with that said, everyone, I hope you have a great night. Hope you enjoyed the show. Very informative from Kevin, as always, the sports editor at the Royal Purple. We'll get back at you later. We hope you all enjoy the night.